Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're tackling something pretty massive. We're mapping out the biblical timeline of salvation and eschatology. We'll be drawing straight from some deeply rich commentaries on Psalm 85, along with scriptural prophecy, to visually map out a journey that really makes sense of this huge topic. Here is a quick look at our agenda for today. We'll start with 1. Past mercy and forgiveness. Move into 2. A present cry for revival. Explore 3. When mercy and truth meet. Look at 4. Signs of the second coming. And we'll wrap up with 5. Future peace and restoration.
All right, let's jump right into section 1, past mercy and forgiveness, deliverance and covering sin. So this timeline is going to anchor our entire exploration today. You can see a really clear progression here. We're moving from historical deliverances, like, say, the Israelites returning from their captivity in Babylon, through today's very real cry for spiritual revival, and then going straight into future prophetic restoration. It's essentially one continuous, unbroken thread of history and theology.
Now, looking back at that past deliverance, the psalmist praises God for past favors. And the commentaries point out something really fascinating. They highlight 2 incredibly rich Hebrew concepts for forgiveness used here. One is lifting a heavy burden away, and the other is covering a hideous stain so it's just completely out of sight. This is a direct callback to the Old Testament scapegoat ceremony, where sin was entirely carried away. I mean, just think about the profound psychological relief of having a massive, literal weight physically lifted off your shoulders. That is exactly the kind of emotional and spiritual release this text is trying to convey. And that brings us to section 2, a present cry for revival, the ongoing struggle of believers. Despite all those past mercies we just talked about, the source commentaries note a harsh reality. Believers frequently find themselves in a present state of spiritual drought and worldly hardship. This dramatic pivot in Psalm 85 perfectly captures the timeless human condition. We look backward, we long for the past, we feel this heavy sense of divine displeasure in our current circumstances, and we end up asking God for immediate relief, wondering, will you be angry with us forever? So the crucial takeaway here is this. True revival requires remembering past faithfulness while boldly recognizing our present spiritual drought. Actually, the Enduring Word commentary notes something really interesting here. This plea for revival, it isn't about drumming up human effort. It's not about just pulling yourself up by your bootstraps or trying harder. Rather, it's about humbly recognizing our own spiritual death and desperately asking God to breathe life right back into us again.
Which builds perfectly to section 3, when mercy and truth meet, the theological intersection.
This intersection right here bridges human desperation with a divine solution. It's kind of like a giant puzzle. On one side, we have mercy, which leans entirely toward grace and pardon. But on the other side, we have truth, which demands strict justice and condemnation. So the commentators ask what is absolutely a vital question. How can a perfectly just God pardon the guilty without totally ignoring the truth? Well, the answer is just stunning. Psalm 85 beautifully personifies these seemingly opposed attributes actually embracing one another. Pastoral sources interpret this as being perfectly reconciled at the cross. It is literally the one place where God remains completely just while simultaneously justifying the sinner. Mercy and truth don't compromise here. They meet perfectly. All right, shifting gears and looking forward to the future, we arrive at section 4, Signs of the Second Coming, the prophetic climax. When you compile verses from Revelation, Luke, and Matthew, a vivid, incredibly dramatic picture emerges of the cosmic and earthly signs that precede this final return. We are talking about the sun turning to darkness, the moon turning to blood, the terrifying roaring of the sea and waves, and lightning shining intensely all the way from the east to the west. It's not just a subtle shift, you guys. Nature itself violently reacts to this prophetic climax. Just imagine the sun going completely dark and the moon turning to blood. In the ancient world, those were the ultimate symbols of complete cosmic upheaval and absolute regime change. And according to the prophetic outlines drawn from Thessalonians, these end times events aren't random. They follow a very precise sequence. First, the trumpet of God sounds, initiated by a loud command and an archangel's voice. Second, the dead in Christ rise first. And third, the living are caught up in the clouds. It's a highly structured, sequential event from start to finish. But what is absolutely crucial to catch here is the emphasis on visibility. The biblical texts emphatically state that this future event will not be a secret. No way. Revelation 1:7 declares that every single eye will see him. It's going to be a globally visible revelation of divine power and judgment.
Finally, the timeline concludes with Section 5, Future Peace and Restoration, the ultimate promise. A sermon from the Zion Covenant Reformed Church highlights a really vital contrast for believers today. They contrast our temporary, fleeting earthly blessings, which, let's be honest, are almost always mixed with suffering, pain, and hardship, with the perfect, permanent peace of a restored future heavenly kingdom. The peace to come is absolutely flawless and eternal, and that offers a profound perspective shift for anyone who's just trying to navigate the daily struggles of modern life. The psalm envisions this incredible final state where truth literally springs straight from the earth, and God's glory permanently dwells with humanity. This removes all of our former struggles and yields this beautiful, bountiful harvest. It is the ultimate, final resolution to that cry for revival we saw earlier in our timeline, sealing the theological promise with absolute finality. So as we wrap up this chronological explainer, moving from God's past mercies to our present cries for help, all the way to the dramatic future prophecies of the second coming, I really want to leave you with this one final thought. In a broken world, where do you look for ultimate peace and restoration? Where are you placing your hope today? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I will see you next time.